All right, welcome in back, I should say, to Pack Therapy, the podcast. On Notre Dame week, we had to bring out the big guns. For tight end we have one of those tight ends, Kyle Rudolph, former Notre Dame tight end, longtime NFL tight end, fresh off a retirement announcement just a couple days ago. I'll give the full resume here before we bring Kyle on. Two-time Pro Bowler, 5-star recruit, first tight end to start every game as a freshman in Notre Dame history, 50 touchdowns, 165 games in the NFL. That's just the tip of the iceberg here. Kyle, thank you for taking the time to join us. And we'll start with that retirement announcement. Why was now the right time?
For me, ultimately, it was a decision that I made alongside with my family this offseason. And, where we are now as a family, I have to make decisions for not just myself and what's best for me, but, I have 4 kids, and of those 4, 3 are in school. And we were in Minnesota for such a long time and played 10 years in one place. We didn't have to do like a lot of guys do throughout the course of our league where, you're constantly moving and changing and switching teams. And then over the course of 3 years, from my last year in Minnesota to this past year in Tampa, I played 3 teams in 3 years. And ultimately, it would have probably been my 4th team in 4 years had I decided to keep playing. I think you couple that with now the opportunity to get into the media, starting my career in the booth, calling Big Ten games for NBC on Peacock, having the opportunity to host a Fox radio show on Sundays during Sunday Night Football. And for me, it really felt like a great time to make the transition. I know Mike would agree with me. We always had guys, mentors, veteran players in the locker room when we were younger players that told us, when the time comes and you just know. And for me, this offseason, I knew it was time to move on to what's next.
And from a guy that knows what it's like, talk about 3 teams in 3 years, 7 teams in 7 years for me. So I know all about that. But I want to kind of tell a story about when me and Rudy were together. So we were playing for the New York Giants. Jason Garrett was our offensive coordinator, and we started this season off 0-3. We're going down to New Orleans. And if you remember, this was a couple years ago, New Orleans had a hurricane. And they had to relocate to Dallas. I believe they played their first game in Jacksonville, had 2 away games. Well, they're coming home for the first time for week 4 in New Orleans, so the place is going to be rocking it. And Jason Garrett's telling this story about Katrina, too, and how we can't let, all this outside noise affect how we play. We can't let them get this momentum of what Katrina was with Steve Gleason and all this. So he starts telling this story about Nick Saban. I don't know where he was together, and he's talking about how Nick Saban was playing Notre Dame, and they looked up, and he said, when we get to Notre Dame, when we get to South Bend, when you look up and see touchdown Jesus, F touchdown Jesus. We don't care about that. And so anyway, we go down to New Orleans, overtime game, we end up winning it. And Daniel Jones he's the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, and it was a great win, and the whole message was this F Katrina too. So the next week we get back into our meeting room, and this was COVID time, so we're in this like outdoor tent, and above the whole thing there's a touchdown Jesus poster that Rudy brought, and it stayed there the whole year. So that was our kind of what we leaned on was to get through it was this F touchdown Jesus. And I tell this story to ask you, when you were at Notre Dame, whether it was in South Bend or on the road, did you always feel like there was a target on your guys' back, like everyone was trying to take you off?
Absolutely. I think just the Notre Dame brand in itself is one of those that's iconic. And, it's like the Yankees. You either love them or you hate them. You either love Notre Dame or you hate Notre Dame. And, I know JG and his story, he'd always look over me, like, as he would say it almost as like, is this okay, Rudy? Like, are you okay that I say this? But it really did paint a picture for how opposing teams felt when they came to Notre Dame Stadium and played in South Bend. Unfortunately for us, we didn't really have the mystique and the wherewithal that Touchdown Jesus really stood for in the tradition of the program when I was there. We were extremely average, 6-6 my first 2 years, and then I think we finished my last year 8-5. But to me, having had the opportunity this year with my TV career to call the spring game and really dive into this team for the first time and study them, as opposed to just being a former player in the NFL that watches the games as we're traveling on Saturday or follows from afar, I had an opportunity to actually dive into this year's Notre Dame team, and it's really exciting for me. Obviously, we've played 2 games, playing the week 0 game over in Ireland and then coming home and playing Tennessee State. So, for us coming to NC State, playing on the road for the first time, it was a home game in Ireland, but having that true first road test, I don't know if it was, but from my memory, I believe the last time we came down there and played was around a hurricane. I remember watching.
Yeah,
I remember watching that game on TV in Minnesota and just thinking how miserable it had to be. And for us as offensive guys, you can't do anything. You can't throw the football. So for Notre Dame this year, I think it's a team that has a chance to do something special. Obviously, you add Sam Hartman and his experience and the success that he's had to a team and a program that's really hung their hat on offensive line play, dominating the line of scrimmage, running the football. In the past, if we got into a game that was a shootout, we were in trouble. We had to play good defense, run the football. And now when you get into a shootout, you have a 24-year-old, 6-year quarterback back there that can sling it around. So I'm excited for these guys to bring that magic and mystique back from Touchdown Jesus. So when people come to South Bend, they're actually worried about coming to South Bend to play Notre Dame again.
I actually want to go into that. You mentioned 24 years old. I looked up where you were when you were Sam Hartman's age. You were going into your 3rd year in the pros, coming off a Pro Bowl year. Just to kind of put it in your memory, it was this would have been the preseason after Adrian Peterson ran for the 2,000 yards. What would you have done in college if you were Sam Hartman's age yet still kicking around on Notre Dame's campus rather than going up in the NFL?
It's interesting because I had the opportunity to sit down with Sam for our production meeting for that spring game, and I felt like I was sitting across the table from, a peer in the NFL, just his maturity and the way that he approaches things, and obviously where he's at in his academic career. He doesn't have the workload that all the other undergrad players have at Notre Dame. So they would talk about how much time Sam would spend in the building. To me, I'm thinking about, Mike, the times that we spent in the building and how long we were there. That's almost what Sam does at Notre Dame because he has a few grad classes. He doesn't have the full class load that everyone else has. But, yeah, it's crazy for me to think about. I left Notre Dame at 21 years old. I played my first game in the NFL at 21 years old. I turned 24, I believe, actually during the 4th season in the NFL. Because for me, it went like 21 was my first year, 22, second, 3, 4. And so I almost I think after my 3rd year, I had signed my 2nd contract in the NFL already. So, here's a guy who's still playing college football. And for me, I was going into my 4th season and had just signed a 5-year contract extension with the Vikings.
And to go along with this Touchdown Jesus theme, I mean, I feel like maybe the kids now didn't grow up with the movie Rudy, but I remember when I went to visit Notre Dame as a sophomore in high school, I was like enamored with the Touchdown Jesus, the play like a champion, like all of the Golden Dome, and I thought it was so cool. And this is kind of a random question, but you being nicknamed Rudy, did that play a role? Like, did you grow up being a Notre Dame fan or anything like that?
Rudy.
No.
Rudy.
Yeah. Not, I mean, I love the movie like everyone else around our age. Like, that was like one of the all-time greatest football movies that we grew up with. But I think the thing that's interesting and also different about today's world and the kids that grow up in today's world as opposed to when we grew up. And I remember one of the big reasons I went to Notre Dame was every one of my home games was going to be on national television on NBC. Now every team is pretty much playing on national TV every week. And like, it was such a big deal to be at Notre Dame, and every game we play is on national television. That's part of the reason why we could recruit the entire country, because mom and dad are always going to be able to watch all your games. You're not going to have a regional game that's only broadcast in the Northeast at 1:00 Eastern time. So for me, having the nickname Rudy, I mean, that's more based off my last name. My dad goes by Rudy. My grandpa went by Rudy. I have been called Rudy my entire life. So then when I got to Notre Dame, from that point on, everyone just always assumed, like, oh, yeah, you're Rudy because you went to Notre Dame. It's like, well, no, actually, I've been Rudy my whole life. But now those kind of go and are one and the same. Yeah. So it certainly had nothing to do with my decision to go there. My decision to go there was purely based on football, the opportunity to play on a national stage each and every week. And, you're not in a conference, so, you have to compete against the entire country. It's one of the things they always say, like at Notre Dame, you don't work in the offseason to be all conference. Like you can't be all conference. You have to be an All-American or you're nothing. So that kind of competitive standard was something that was appealing to me.
We brought up earlier that you're doing some work calling Big Ten games. Talk about Notre Dame can't be all conference. I mean, we're an ACC country here. There's a lot of desire for Notre Dame down the line, or as soon as they want to join the ACC. You're a Notre Dame guy covering the Big Ten. Is that a connection that I should be looking into?
I'm a Notre Dame guy covering the Big Ten because NBC just signed a Big Ten contract and needed talent to fill for the games on Peacock. But, it's interesting when you look at conference realignment and where the landscape of college football is headed. I certainly understand why Notre Dame is independent and why they remain independent. I personally believe they will remain independent as long as it's financially responsible for the school. And people always ask, like, why isn't Notre Dame in a conference? Money. It's simple. That's how all decisions are made across college sports. We all realize that. We all understand it. And it will be very interesting if push comes to shove and you have to get into a conference. Do you do what used to geographically make sense, kind of the Big Ten, but now the Big Ten goes from Piscataway, New Jersey, and Rutgers to Los Angeles, California, to the Northeast, Washington. So, like, geographically, that's kind of all gone out the window. So then it comes, ACC, there's a history there. We played in the conference in 2020. Obviously, we have the 5 ACC games a year. So it'll certainly be interesting as the landscape of college football unfolds.
Last thing before you go, Rudy, tell NC State fans what they can expect to see from this Notre Dame team when they come in town on Saturday.
I think the biggest thing, and it's been a part of Notre Dame's DNA since I can remember, like I mentioned before, it's a team that wins the game up front. They lean on their offensive line. They want to run the football. Audric Estime is one of the best backs in college football. He reminds me of the Jerome Bettis that I watched growing up as a kid. Just a huge back, but they also have kind of this new modern era of a stable of backs. There's multiple guys back there carrying the football. And I mentioned Sam Hartman before. Sam adds a dynamic that we haven't had there in a long time. When you have a guy back there who, Mike, you know how hard it is when you're playing in a system where you got to turn around and hand the ball off, and you live by the run game. And then all of a sudden you have a 3rd and 8 and you got to throw the ball, or you get down 10 points, 14 points. So we got to start throwing the ball around. When you've done that from the beginning and, hey, we're slinging it all over the yard, like, you don't even worry about being down 10 points. You're like, we'll make that up in no time. But when your identity is built on running the football, it's really hard to be a quarterback who can all of a sudden – we start playing in the drop back pass world and you got to win a shootout and claw back from a 2-point deficit. From the half of football that I watched Sam play in the spring game to the 2 games so far this year, one of the big things that stood out for me last week was the 2-minute drive before half. JG's on the broadcast, and he's talking about Notre Dame's calling timeouts. I think they were up 28-3 or something at that time. And he's like, why are they calling timeouts? And he was purely saying they're going to get game experience for Sam to go out and execute this 2-minute drill. And sure enough, he was 7 for 7 or 8 for 8, goes right down the field and scores a touchdown. And when you have a guy who can kind of just flip that switch and start throwing the ball around, it makes your offense really tough to defend. So I think that's what you can expect to see from Notre Dame as a team that's going to rely heavy on the run game. But if it turns into a shootout, you have a quarterback back there who can throw it around and has thrown it around a lot in the ACC.
Well, we lied. I need one more 15, 30-second answer. Your final touchdown catch was from Tom Brady in his final regular season game. Where's the ball? Do you have it?
Yeah, so that's a good story in itself. So the last touchdown pass that Tom Brady threw was actually my 50th career touchdown pass. I knew it was my 50th career touchdown pass when I caught it. We did not know that was ultimately going to be Tom's last regular season touchdown pass and the however many hundredth that he's thrown. So I immediately took the ball to the sideline, gave it to our equipment managers. They had it painted up for me. So the greatest quarterback of all time's last regular season touchdown pass is now painted in my office, and it says it's Kyle Rudolph's 50th career touchdown.
Well, what about all these records? I hope I have a small record with you, Rudy. Did I throw you your longest catch of your career against the Chargers?
Absolutely.
There we go.
65 yards. So it took me 11 years to get 65 yards, but Big Mike stood in there on third down. And took a shot.
I took a shot.
And that ball's right next to the Brady ball, right?
Yeah,
that ball's right next to it.
Talk about the greatest of all time,
Kyle, we appreciate you for taking the time. Good luck with your media career, and hopefully we're able to catch up again soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
and
Rudy.
Best of luck this week, but not too much luck.